Yo, yo, yo. Let's see. I think I might have to log back out, log back in, yo. What's good, what's good, what's good, my people? What's good? Let me put my headphones on real quick. Hopefully I can hear this shit. Alright, cool. I think we on. Yeah, what's going on? Overcoming podcast. Murder Goes. What's good, what's good, what's good? Much love from Northern Cali all the way to Southern Cali. You know how we do. This is Brown. I go by Brown Fist. I go by Brown 96. Whatever the deal, I back up that raza, and that's what it's about. You know what I mean? So this is the podcast. My raza can write. My gente can write. You know what I mean? That's what it's about. I was on my other podcast a little minute ago, bumping some rollouts. You know what I mean? I was bumping some Fat Joe and shit. I got them vinyl. You know what I mean? You know, I was bumping some of this shit. So you know what I mean? You know how we go. But today's gonna be a dope podcast with the homie, written by Will. He's a poet, among other things. You know, he's gonna talk to us about coming into the into the game with, when we talk about, hip hop and whatnot. But today we're gonna concentrate on his poetry. He has a poetry book that he made. He's self-published, as I have it understood, and he's gonna break it down to us how he got to where he got to with his poetry. You know what I mean? So with no further ado, written by Will. He's on the line. I'll bring him in. Here we go. As these shits be bugging, but I think they're good. And I got my little chela right here, so I got my shit going. So what's up? Hey, can you hear me, bro?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, perfect. Nice and smooth. That's what's up, man. Hey, nice to finally meet you face to face, bro. Mucho gusto, bro. It's always a great pleasure to meet another Chicano, another Latino, another person that may have came from a certain similar situations as I may have come from. And it's always good to conversate with likewise, with people that think the same or similar because of experience and all that. But it's always beautiful, man. It's a beautiful thing to have conversations like this. And there's now more so with social media, it makes it so easy for people across cities away, states away. We can conversate so easily and put this into a forum where we can teach others how to overcome certain things. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. Thank you for giving me this time, bro.
Right, man. I'm definitely with everything that you said, for sure.
All right, man. Yeah, so let's first break it off, break the ice by having you introduce yourself and telling the people who you are, what you represent, and how was it as a youngster,
sure.
man?
Yeah, man. So my name is Will Reyes, and I'm a writer, poet, San Fernando Valley, Hollywood. Yeah, man. I'm an 80s baby, so I'm a kid. Both my parents America from a country called Bolivia, and they came to LA like in the late 60s, and South Central, like I don't know, years or so, and then they moved to the San Fernando Valley in the 80s, which is when I was. Yeah, man. That I feel like that experience is an intricate part of like who I am as a writer and everything else. Just the experience, in the lower income neighborhood, growing up in a single parent household because my parents divorced little, and so I was raised by my mom, and there was 5 of us. I got 2 sisters, so it was a big family, and really just I feel like that experience was real difficult, when I was going through it. But now that I'm older, I really value like the things that I went through and the lessons that it taught me. And I really feel like we were talking about when we opened with like media and stuff. It's really cool how we have the avenue that we can just uncut. You know what I'm saying? Like we can just present to people the things, our experiences, the things we went through, our ideas, and to be able to offer it unfiltered and stuff like that is real important to me. So for sure.
Yeah, that's a key word right there, bro. Unfiltered. You know what I mean? Raw, straight from organically from the source, bro. That's you know what I mean? Even though sometimes it may be kind of too surreal, it might hit you as a shocker, certain things. but that's the best way, man, to introduce it. It's on its natural, state. That's the best way to introduce
And I
it to
feel like if
people.
you
You know
think
what I
about
mean?
the most iconic things, bro, like pop culture and stuff, like if we think of like Doggy Style, The
Mm-hmm.
Chronic, you think of like iconic movies, it's stuff that was like
Mm-hmm.
challenged the norms, or it was more unfiltered. And I think that's what people remember. And like I told you, man, our
Mm-hmm.
experiences coming up were real hard sometimes, but it hardened us. And I feel like we can tell stories that are like raw, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that people can relate to. And then we have that authenticity behind it. You know what I'm saying? And I think we could flip
Mm-hmm.
something that might have been difficult and negative, something that we could use now. Because I feel like pop stories,
Oh
you know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah, no doubt, man. See, I know you come from a hip hop background, and I do want to acknowledge that. Can you give the people just a little brief history on that? Because I do want to bring you back, but to my other podcast, the Hip Hop Spot, and I do want to, dive into that part of your life. And that might take up that whole hour that we're gonna do the interview. You know what I mean? So I want to focus in today on
Yeah.
your writing style, on formatting your how you put out those books that you have.
Yep.
You have two
Yep.
books,
For
right?
sure.
Yeah, yeah. I want to talk about,
Uh,
structure, just in itself, the whole self-publishing part in itself, that's a big one for a lot of people. You know what I mean? So I want to address that. So just give the people a little background on your
for
background
sure.
in
Yeah. I
hip
mean,
hop.
and to be honest with you, bro, it all ties in. Meaning, I was little. For
Mm-hmm.
me as a writer, the biggest influence of anything was just I love to read. Since I was a little kid in elementary,
Mm-hmm.
books like read books a lot. I used to read the LA Daily News every day, like just reading. So I used to like to read, and I feel like reading opened my mind and my imagination up to all kinds of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like what was going on in real life. If I could pull a book away and go sit somewhere, and if it was a good book, I feel like you can get lost in that world. You know what I'm saying? So reading was a real big influence for me. Just how I saw, like for example, my poetry is very much rhyme focused, and I felt like especially in my first book, it was real like old school style poetry. Like just that I was exposed
Mm-hmm.
to was like like 2 bars and rhyme, 2 bars and rhyme or something, and I was used to that. It was influenced like that, and then for me, hip hop plays a part because I feel like if you think of someone like Tupac, he was like basically like a poet anyway. And if you remember, I don't know, but he released a book of
Mm-hmm.
poetry when he was in prison.
Oh yeah, I have that book.
And
I have that
so,
book. Yeah, let's
I
go.
mean, it's just another way that our people found a way to express themselves, right? And so for me, through hip hop,
Mm-hmm.
to hear cultural experiences, things that were relatable to me, right? So when I was younger, I was into like old school classical poetry, or I was into like classical music. And my mind was like I was really engaged in it, but I never really fully connected. And then when I started hearing hip hop through my older brothers, I started hearing poetic stuff that was relatable, and I feel like when you can connect with something that matters. So anyway, um, uh, hip hop with me because when I graduated high school, I went to a community college. I didn't really know what I was going to do. And being at community college was a whole brand new experience. And I remember going to a computer lab. Like I didn't know nobody at this school. It was much bigger than a high school. And hopping online and just hopping on some rap websites. And through doing that, it really introduced me to the world of online promotions or whatever, and that allowed me to connect with other people like early on. I'm saying that people that were into about rap,
Mm-hmm.
and that gave me an opportunity to connect with people, and just doing that, working with rappers. Basically, I feel like it gave me the confidence I needed to believe that the stuff that was worth people
Mm-hmm.
reading and listening to and paying attention to. And so I have to like I mention hip hop in that regard because I feel like it molded uh, the foundations of me as a writer. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I'm a big Joe Budden
Yeah.
fan, and he was someone who always was very about his mental health and his music. He would rap. He would rap about
Mm-hmm.
feeling, hopeless. And so that writer because personally I've always suffered through depression, anxiety, and I used to just write my poems as a form to just let off. You feel me? Like whatever I was going through, I would just write these poems and just to vent and then feel better. But I would never share them with nobody. And then doing it that way,
Mm.
I guess basically just like gave me the confidence to believe in it.
Oh man, that's dope. See, and that ties in, like you said, it ties in with writing, because hip hop in itself molded me to be a writer, molded me to think outside the box, to think about, other things that might happen outside of our communities, because we're so caught up with what's going on here that we don't even know what's going on out there. We can only imagine. So that sparked the imagination in my mind to think like, damn, if this type of shit's going on with my culture, what's going on with their culture, what's going on with their culture. Like, I can only imagine, you know what I mean? So that sparks imagination in my mind. And I can put it down in the paper, you know what I mean? And just kind of come to my own conclusions with what can be happening with their culture, you know what I mean? Or their lives, or just someone walking down the street. What's going on with that dude's life? You know what I mean? Let me make up a life of what I think his life is like as a story. You know what I mean? So you get ideas, bro. You start thinking outside the box within hip hop, just with that background. You know what I mean? As an artist myself, like you start to, just write different lyrics and possibilities and other, third third option type
Yeah.
things. You know what I mean? But so let's get into it, bro. Like when you started, you said that at a young age you started writing. What would you write about? In the beginning of your writing stage of your
Yeah,
writing,
man. I
career.
started writing when I was a little kid, bro. I have a I was I kept them. I have a little short story I wrote when I was like 9 years old. It was like, funny now, but it was like a 9-year-old brain. So it was like a short story about a bunch of like made up characters like food and like one of them was like a Corona bottle. One of them was like a Swiss Army knife. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just all like these little characters, but I had like this little 9-chapter story of like the good guys versus the bad guys or whatever. And so that's the earliest example I can recall of me just being like wanting to come up with my own stories or my own ideas. And so I remember time to like write it down and make it like a little thing. And so at the time I felt like I didn't even think I didn't know there was stuff like being an author when you're older, but I just knew like I wanted to write stories. So I have that experience being little. And so I wrote a little bit like that, but I never wrote poetry at all. And then I just went to, junior high and high school in the LAUSD, bro, and that kind of derailed me a little bit. I had some years where I didn't do good in school and wasted some time. And so my writing kind of just disappeared for a while, for several years. And then when I finished high school, my group of friends were kind of like, I guess, going to keep doing what we were doing. And I was like, damn, like, I'm about to be 18. What am I going to do? So I went to community college, and through community college, my writing got picked up again. I'm telling you, when I started writing about rappers. And what I mean by that is I would just like a new song came out and I would write, like nobody cared, but I would write, this new song is out, and I would write about it on the forums. And so I didn't write again until that. And once I did that, I'm telling you that I started just, like I said, writing poetry on the side. And it was just, to be honest with you, bro, on that rap forum when I had first signed up, Daz from the Dog Pound, right? His website, so he's dpgrecords.com, and he had a forum, and he used to, this was like 2001, 2002. And so that there was no Twitter, not social media how it is now. And so for Daz to be posting on the internet was hella cool. And I jokingly started writing. They had like a little tech battle rap forum in there. And so we were like battling each other. So I signed up, like I battled. And I did it as a joke. The reason it matters is because it made me like try to get creative again. And so I started trying to make these rap, and doing that like re-sparked a fire in me. And then when I tell you, I started going like, damn, I'm always sad, or damn, I'm always anxious. And I started just writing about that. And that's really where
That's cool, man. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I believe that things happen for a reason, bro. I believe that things just don't happen just because of, coincidence or whatnot. Like, you were meant to be in a certain places to learn to become who you are today, bro.
100%. Yeah. No,
feel me?
Man, if I didn't, like, if I my high school, I don't go to community college. At community college, I was so like, it was so foreign to me. It was such a new world. I didn't know what else to do, that I was like, let me go to the computer lab. But I'm glad even now, because I feel like it's important for other young Latinos, other young people of color, Black writers to know that like we can come from the most unconventional background. You feel me? Like all the twists and turns. I failed a bunch of classes. I dropped out of high school. I was in
Mm.
community college for like 4+ years, bro. You know, community college is like a 2-year thing.
Mm.
But you know what? None of that matters. Stay dedicated, hustle,
Mm-hmm.
and even what you're doing. You know, and like we said at the beginning, we got authentic stories to tell, worthwhile stories to. And so, yeah, man, I
Mm-hmm.
fully believe that. I'm glad that it all worked out that way because it was all like little steps, you know, and then it puts us where we're at.
Mm. Have you ever gone into hiphoppoetry.com? I don't think it exists no more. I went on the last time and I couldn't find it. Hiphoppoetry.com. I used to always like write, because I started off writing poetry before I started, writing lyrics, well, music, you know what I mean? Hip hop. And I would submit my poetry on hip hop, on, what's it called? Hiphoppoetry.com. So it was pretty dope. And like, that was pre social media. So I was getting the, you know what I mean? I mean, you as an artist, as a writer, you know what I mean? You want people to give you criticism. You want people to criticize your stuff. You want to hear what other people think about your stuff because you're dwelling about your things. You're writing all the time. You already know how you write. You know your style, but you don't know if
Right.
you're good enough until someone comes in and looks at it and be like, okay, well, I fuck with it, but you know what I mean? And you want that, but what? Like, what am I missing? I don't feel like it's completely, you know, I don't feel completed yet. I don't feel like I'm there where I want to be. You know what I mean? And we all search for that. So at that stage of my life, I was searching for someone to kind of an approval, you know what I mean? To approve my
Yeah.
work. You know what I mean? When was it that you started that stage, bro?
Uh, yeah, man. I feel like, man, because like I said, I think the important thing for all of us is to feel like, you know, reason maybe or like a purpose behind what we're doing, you know, because we might all have type of burning
Mm-hmm.
ambition or something. And for me, being in community college, like I said, being introduced to this rap website and just at first just doing them little joke raps or whatever, but then starting to realize, yo, I could interact with these rappers. And me and a couple other dudes were like, let's start interacting with them. Let's make our own website. Let's start interviewing. So all of that type of stuff, really, like, I felt like it, to what you're saying, I felt like I had always had like this hunger or like this burning thing in me that wasn't being addressed, right? And all of a sudden, like
Mm-hmm.
something I was in control of, a creative outlet that I could feed that fire or whatever, you know? And so once I did that, it made me just want to be like, I posted something and people were like, hey, I agree with you. Like, what you said about the state of West Coast rap is true, or this is what,
Mm-hmm.
so and so needs to do. I had never really had validation like that in my personal life. Like, I didn't have, like I said, I was from a single parent household, so I didn't really have my dad like patting me on the back or telling me good job or nothing like that. And so having people read my work or something that I thought and then say, we mess with this is dope, or we agree with it or whatever, was super like satisfying. You know what I'm saying? And it made, what else can
Mm-hmm.
I do? And I agree with you too, man, that I feel like that's important because like how we sharpen our swords, right? Like if when I started writing, since I shared it with you, it was just like it could have been stale, it could have been repetitive, but like you said, it's just in. And once I finally started sharing it or seeing how people, like if I did something clever on purpose and then people react to it, great. You feel me? You're like,
Mm-hmm.
damn, okay, the extra time I took to make that sound this way or that way, people notice it. Let me do that again. And so that, and then also putting it out
Mm-hmm.
to the internet and being on Instagram with it really allowed me to see what I feel like there's this, you might have the favorite thing you create and then you put it out there and everybody loves the thing you didn't think they would love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And
it's
see how
true.
that
Yeah.
affected me creating. How I start, sometimes I want to replicate something, and then other times, I might just be like, I like how this other person rhymes something, and how can I do something? You know what I'm saying? Or
Mm-hmm.
and I my sword a
Mm-hmm.
lot as a writer, and it makes me much.
Yeah. That's dope, man. See, and that's cool right there, bro. Like I love talking to people about things like this because it's like I'm passionate about it, bro. So I don't even need to write down these questions. Like they come off the dome because like I start to think as a writer, what is interesting to me when I'm in the writing process, when I'm in the writing stage and I'm like thinking about all these things, like, am I doing it right? am I being redundant? Am I doing the same thing as I did last time? And if the person that reads my last poem, my last writing, page, whatever, are they gonna say not this shit
Right.
again? You know what I mean? Like, I think about those things, and like sometimes I think about it so much that I don't even do shit. You know what I mean? I don't even do anything because I'm like, nah, not right now is not the right time, because I'm thinking the same way that I thought the other time when I was writing the other time. I don't want to put the same things on, on this poem. I don't want to do the same things. Like, when you're caught up in that mentality of like, nah, today's not the day. You know what I mean? I want to write. I feel creative, but it's just I'm not feeling it. Like, I'm not getting what I need at the moment. What do you do with
Yeah,
those times,
man.
man?
Definitely. I think one thing that's helped a lot is I've had the benefit of certain people around have worked really hard at things, and then I've seen them become successful just through consistency.
Mm.
Because I feel like sometimes we get the idea that successful people like have some type of shortcut, or they know somebody, or something magic
Mm-hmm.
happened to them, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen like, nah, there's a lot of people who have success that have worked really, really hard, and it's about consistency,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so for me, it's just been about trying to challenge myself to be consistent. And I bring up rap a lot because I think of someone like Nipsey Hussle, who was about like, I'm just gonna keep working hard, working hard. You think of someone like Tupac, who was famous for his work
Mm-hmm.
ethic, right? And how he recorded such an
Mm-hmm.
archive of his music. And so what I do when I'm not feeling well, or if I'm feeling like writer's block or stuck, is to just try, you know what I'm saying? Like, I really just try and push through it now. Meaning I just try to see like, what am I gonna create today? Or also one thing that has helped me, man, is uh when I first wrote my first book, a lot of my poems, I had written them like 10 plus years before, or five. All right, because what
Oh,
happens is
okay.
I had kept my poetry secret to myself for a long time, and when I finally said I'm gonna try and share it, I had like a big archive, and so when I was going through it, I had this belief, like a stubborn belief in my head of like, nah, I gotta keep true to what I was when I wrote it. Like, if I had said, hey, in
Mm.
2004, I didn't want to change it, right? But then I had to like, and so sometimes that would get me stuck. Like, maybe these poems, 80% of the poems, the theme I'm trying to convey, 20% doesn't, and I stubbornly might just cut it home because it didn't fit. And so I had to challenge myself through consistency and saying push through of like, this makes me uncomfortable. I don't know how to react to this, but I was open to, let's say, editing it, right? And by being able to tell myself like, bro, you're the author, like you're the one who created this work. You can have written it this way in '04, and you could find a better way to say it at the end in '08, and just do it. That, like,
Yeah.
being open-minded and just pushing through allowed me to even be more open to editing my own work, which I feel like increased my talent, or my you feel me? Because
Mm-hmm.
now I wasn't just holding myself in a certain box of like, I got to be authentic to how, like, why should I be authentic to how I was before? I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Like, it was just open to evolving or
Yeah.
whatever. And so when I have writer's block or I'm stuck, I try to just, if I can't write something new, maybe I give a third look to something older. And then I might see a new way to flip something and change that. And then that, as a writer, I'm sure you agree,
Mm.
like sometimes you could flip one, that'll open a whole new chapter in your head of like, on this whole another
Mm-hmm.
side. So I see, and
That's
just,
true.
if you don't write every day, at least try to reread something or edit something.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be surprised at even if you think, like, sometimes the best moves are on the fly, right? Like Audible on the, and us as
Yeah.
writers, like, I feel like it's a challenge to us if we try to adapt to those moments.
That's true, bro. And you know what? And I'm pretty sure you would agree that most of the time, in retrospect, we look back and we see that we were right to begin with. Like, we felt that it was done properly. Even before someone read it and said, "Oh, good job. That's dope." Even before that, you already know what you're putting out. You know when you put garbage out, like, "Oh man, no one's gonna like that shit. Like, I don't feel it. I don't feel it." You know what I mean? And it comes out as true. You know what I mean? Because but we're most of the time we're right. Like, we feel that answer within us when we ask, "Is people gonna like this?" You know what I mean? We already know the answer. We just want to hear it. You know what I mean? We want someone to say it, but we already know it. I already know it. I've shown people certain things that I was like, I think they're gonna like it. And yeah, they're like, "Oh shit, that's some dope ass shit you wrote there." And then there's times that I show some people like, my mediocre shit is all right, you know. And they're like, oh, that's cool. So you get to, you know, to see that within yourself when you
Yeah,
look
bro.
back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
Has that happened
definitely.
to
And I
you?
think that it's important that we know that that's part of the process, right? Like, meaning, like I said about successful people, like I know they got to be consistent and just stay at it, right? And so that it's not always going to be
Mm,
glamorous, right? Like we all think of the glamorous moments when we see successful people. And so for me, like there had definitely been times where I was like insecure about a certain thing I was working on, or and that would like stall me, you know, and make me get stuck for a while. And it's really just been about understanding for me that like all the great, right, like great basketball players, you know, they could have 70 winners, but they'd probably miss like another 45 shots that buzzer, you know what I'm saying?
mm,
Or they just always keep going.
yeah,
And so for me, it just feels like, you know, obviously we will want to learn through observing others' mistakes or whatever, but sometimes we're gonna have slip ups, you know. And I feel like having the
yeah.
courage within ourselves to just put ourselves out there is a huge part of the step. Because at the
Mm-hmm.
I was so worried, bro, about sharing my poetry, because to me I thought like I felt like I didn't fit the stereotype of like poetry, you know what I'm saying, or like how poets look, or I might have felt like, damn, all my poetry is like all about my insecurities and my vulnerabilities. Like, do I really want the world to know that I go through these things, you know? And so there was all kinds of things I had to worry about, but I was so like caught up in, like you were saying, like, damn, it might be this way, it might be that way. And then once I actually did it, like once I actually just put stuff out there, like I can tell, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes there's like one poem that'll do amazing. There might be another poem that I try something different, and everyone's like, But I've learned
Mm-hmm.
that by focusing on the process of it, right? Like not on the little steps, right? Because if on step 5 you have a great outcome, you might get too excited, or if it's not a great outcome, you might get too down. I try to focus on the process right now, because I feel like if you just keep laying them bricks or whatever, then the wall gets built. You know what I'm saying? And by putting myself
Mm.
out there, and like you said, being willing to like put out things that you're not only putting out everything you think is the dopest, but the other stuff, I feel like it you know, it molds you, and it just makes you better as a writer.
Mm. Oh yeah, man. I mean, you don't get better until you fail. I've known that by experience, bro. You know what I mean? So that's for sure, man. Now, I wanted to ask you because I went through the same, you know, similar situations where I was writing, you know what I mean? I guess you could say lovey-dovey stuff in my poetry. I was writing some stuff that you don't talk about amongst, you know what I mean, amongst homies, amongst your people, you know what I mean? You don't talk about these certain things because they'll look at you as a weirdo or whatever, you know what I mean? But you know what I mean? I mean, shit, we're human, bro. We're men, and we suppress certain emotions sometimes because of our machismo, because of whatever we go through in life, growing up where we grew up. Talk to us about your experiences with that and how you were able to overcome feeling a certain way about showing the world
Mm.
your gift, and then once you did so, you know, how did that
For sure,
feel?
bro. I think I've been I feel like in regards to the stuff I write about, like depression, anxiety, and vulnerabilities and insecurities, um, a big reason that helped me was just I feel like there's been a bit of a shift culturally or pop culture wise in society, where like there's been a little bit more attention given to people's mental health. You know, I feel like you said, like most of our lives, we grow up at a disadvantage already. I'm talking about like, you know, we might not have both parents, or our parents might be working all the time, and so we might learn incorrect ways to do things, you know what I'm saying, like negative or anything
Mm,
else. And I feel like I learned through going through this, like watching the shift in mental health coverage. Like athletes the last 5-10 years have been a lot more open. Kevin Love from the NBA. I feel like DeMar DeRozan, who is on the Spurs, but he grew up in Compton. Like he talked about dealing with depression as an athlete. The bubble, bro, like the bubble that just happened in the NBA. A lot of
mm,
athletes were more open. Like, hey, man, we're isolated right now. Like, we're away from our. Uh,
mm.
like, you know, these
Yeah, that's
athletes are
true.
used to a lifestyle of moving 100 miles per hour, and all of a sudden you're just in your hotel room all the time. And I feel like
Yeah.
like quote unquote macho figures in society be open about what they go through, and even rappers, bro, like Jake about, you know,
Mm,
mental health. A bunch of rappers, you know what I'm saying, Hobson. I mentioned Joe Budden before. J-Rock from TDE. In one of his last albums, he was real open about the struggles he went through after a motorcycle accident. And like, so watching these people that I admire or see as like tough, seeing them talk about it made it a little bit easier for me to talk about it. And then, like I told you, I always tell people this, but I always think of Snoop. Like Snoop says, ain't nothing to it but to do it. He just putting it out there, bro. It just taking that step, it went such a long way for me caring about it. Like I really thought I was going to care about like what 500 different people thought, but just putting it out there was such a release. And then it'll let me see that like nothing bad happened either. You know what I'm saying? Like we can just do the things. And a lot of times it's not going to be as like negative as we might have envisioned. And so I really always try to say like, we just really got to try it. And that's been a big simple philosophy, but a blessing for me in the last several years.
I appreciate you mentioning that, bro, because we need more men, you know what I mean, to say that it's all right to express yourself how you feel, you know what I mean? Like you feel it, like, you know what I mean? What are you gonna do? Suppress it your whole fucking life? You know what I mean? You gotta at least use it in a creative form, you know what I mean? At least, you know, get it out of you. Because what are you gonna do? Like, you're just gonna hold that anger in you your whole fucking life? Like, you know, that's what I had. Even to this day, I have like anger issues and shit because no one sat me down and told me like, you know, this is how you handle your anger. You know, this is how you handle this. This is how you handle that. You know, because as, you know, Mexican Americans, we grow up and our parents are just, they're hardworking people. You know what I mean? So they're, you know what I mean? They're just there to provide and shit. You know what I mean? They did a good job at providing and being, you know, good, humble people. But then again, they weren't taught, you know what I mean? Oh, this is how you handle children in America. This is how you handle, you know, life in America with children. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure no one sat them down and told them like, if you don't do this a certain way, this might happen to your children. You know what I mean? So we're both in the same boat, learning as a son and as parents. We both, you know, came out losing in certain ways. But you know what I mean? It is what it is. But just for the future generation, for people that may be listening, we need more men like yourself and others like yourself to tell the world that this is something that should be done, something that should be implemented in schools, something that should be implemented at home. Telling your son, your daughter, you know what? Express yourself. Like, you know, don't believe what they're saying that, you know, if you do a certain thing as a male, you're a pussy, you're weak, you're this, you're that. Those are just labels. The world is so fucking sick and tired of labels. And this is why art form like poetry, you know, music, you know, done in the right way, you know what I mean, can be therapy, can be therapeutic, and it can actually cure certain things within ourselves as we express these demons out of us. You know what I mean?
I'm glad you said that because, you know, that's one of the reasons why I ended up deciding when I was like, damn, I really put my poetry out there. I thought to myself, I had so many breakthroughs on a personal level, bro, struggling with my own mental health through listening to hip hop, right? So like if a rapper said, I was so depressed, I felt this way or that way, to hear someone else express something I felt all the time that I was ashamed to tell someone, and to hear them express it and like still be whatever they are, right? Like still be cool, still be like macho and all this other stuff, to see them be able to do that, there's such a value in feeling like relate, right? And so me being able to relate to it made me also say to myself, like, you know, I was a little brown kid who suffered through these things and I didn't have all the right tools available to me to help me learn through it. And if I'm an older brown person now and I say, I'm going to keep this to myself, like, nah, I felt ability to help other kids like me or other teenagers. And so, yeah, for me now, I take it as a form of pride to be like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's normal for people to feel all kinds of different mental health struggles. Like, it's normal to feel depressed. It's normal to sometimes feel isolated. And it's important that, like you say, we communicate. You know what I'm saying? That it's okay to talk about things. Nothing bad will come of it. So yeah, just the dialogue itself is so important, and us talking about it and being so open about it. You know, it could let the younger generation, most importantly, I feel like, because the younger kids learn everything from watching us anyway. You know what I'm saying? So notice that we're more measured when, you know, big events happen, and we try to logically address it out, and we try to, you know, then they're going to try to learn that too. And I feel like we always want to improve upon each generation. You feel me? And so Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Health thing. You know, if you hurt your ankle playing basketball, you're gonna put some ice. You're gonna lift it. You know, you're gonna address it.
Mm.
If you want to get bigger muscles, you're gonna do some curls. If you're feeling some type of way emotionally that's too much to handle, just keeping it to yourself is not gonna make it better. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like if you have a
Exactly.
family member that you know you could talk to, then try talking to them. If you have a friend, and if you know therapy, also I feel is important to say like therapy is a wonderful, wonderful thing. You know what I'm saying? Like therapy is a real for a lot of people.
It
And so,
is.
yeah, I'm fully with talking about mental health and destigmatizing it so people know like, it's a normal thing and we
No
all
doubt.
experience it, right? Like every kind of
Yeah.
experiences mental health issues. So, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Mm. To everyone that's logged in, we're just talking about, written by Will. He's a poet. We're just talking about, his experiences before the poetry, while he's doing his poetry, and how we express ourselves as writers. And thank y'all for tuning in. Now as for your writing style, bro, let's get into that. So now, when you first started, what style did you have, and what has it become? What has it
For
evolved
sure.
to?
Yeah, man, in the beginning, I feel like my style was just real simple rhyme. Uh, and not rap style, but just like all my like uh, um like it would just like maybe like 4 or 5 lines and then another 4 or 5 lines and each word would rhyme at the end, right? So like I have a poem that'll say, I feel like a bird with a broken wing, damaged by all the bad I've seen, right? I'll just keep like rhyming that style. And so a
Mm,
lot of my stuff was that tempo. And I didn't think of writing at that time as like a creative outlet. I didn't think of it as something that could potentially, that would be shared with people. I really felt like overwhelmed by life, and I was like, the only thing that's gonna make me feel better is to write, right? So I used to at the beginning. So first, I learned poetry like that style, simple like rhyme style, and so all my original poetry is that way. And once I made my first book and put it out, uh, I stuck to what I thought was safe and what I knew, which was that, and then putting it on
mm,
Instagram and you know, meeting a lot of people in the Instagram community, other writers, other people who go through the same type of things that I go through, reading their poetry, seeing how they talked about the same things that I went through and they flipped it. You know what I'm saying? And to see like it'd be me, like you know, a Latino from LA, a girl from Scotland, another dude from Florida, someone from New Zealand, and we all are dressed and all writers, and we all wrote about the same thing 4 different ways, right? And so
mm.
once I put myself out there and I started seeing other writers more, it made me want to experiment. It made me want to be like, what can I do if I challenge myself to be different? You know, so
Mm.
I actually try sometimes now when I write to. I'm like, no, I don't want to do simple rhymes. Like I want to try to, excuse me, I want to try to do like 2 or 3 rhymes and then have no rhyme at all, and then like the fourth thing be a rhyme, and then so now I'm just trying to see like uh, how can I do stuff that feels exciting or whatever. So yeah,
Yeah.
it really challenged me now to see what else I can do, and doing that is exciting. And I feel like the poetry that I write now, it feels like I told you, like I put the practice in. Now I'm getting, you know, with the jumper or whatever.
Yeah. That's dope, man. Um, how long did it take you to compile all the stuff that you put into your first book, and how many years apart were each works within that
For
book?
sure. So for my first book, I would say that I probably started writing poetry probably like in '05 or something, and I book out book in 2018. So to be true, my
Oh,
first
okay.
book had stuff from that whole range. So it had 70% of the
Wow.
work was probably like '05 to '08, to be honest with you. And at first I was just like making like an anthology or whatever. Like I didn't know what I you
Hmm.
know what you know what how similar are these poems, and I stacked them all together, but I didn't really know a theme. And then once I put that together, I started to like see, okay, you know, you could start to shift stuff or move it around. And what was I gonna say? So yeah, with the first book, it has the range, like I told you, of almost 13 years. And between those 13, almost
Hmm.
all of it was the older stuff. I realized creatively, I was like, okay, I need to put like bridges or segues here. And so I wrote a couple new poems to connect everything. And I had made the choice to myself. At first, I thought I was going to put all my poems with like the dates I wrote them, right? And then I was like, I didn't want my book to have a bunch of old dates on it. And I was like, what does it matter when I wrote it? Like, this is my work. Taking out the dates, put that together. So it took me, I would say, like, I feel like a rapper with their debut album, like my whole life to make the first book. You feel me? So at least it was probably 10 years in the making of me just writing stuff. I didn't really think about the book till about 2018. So it took me about a year to make the first book. Once I thought about it, I looked through like 200 poems. I picked like 30 that I thought 15. And I should say, man, it's because we talked a little bit about self-publishing at the beginning. Like, to people watching, like, YouTube is a wonderful asset. You feel me? Like, YouTube is full of tutorials. Other self-published authors are on YouTube. They show you, you know, a lot of the basics on how to do it. I did everything truly independent, all on my own hustle. Like, I learned how to, you know, format it. I outsourced through apps like Fiverr, you know, like work for hire websites. You can hire graphic designers. You can hire. I hired someone to draw the cover. I hired someone to draw the illustrations inside. And you can work on a budget, bro. You can find people bucks. Like, you know, it depends what you need. But what I'm saying is, so that 1 year process, I used the internet and my own hustle. You feel me? Like, so people, you just I hopped on YouTube, you know, watched videos on how to put it together. It took about a year to put the first book. And I really felt like I was just going to rock with the first book for a while. And so it took me about a year to make it. And then just through life, bro, in 2019, my dad, he got cancer out of nowhere. And weeks, he passed away. Like, he was like,
oh, dang. Sorry to hear that, bro.
And he was just gone all of a sudden. And that event, like, you know, and it made me feel like, damn, what am I doing? You know, like, meaning I knew that I had 200 poems and I picked like 30 in the book, and then I was kind of happy. And I was like, yo, like, I didn't have a good relationship with my dad when I was growing up because he wasn't around a lot. And now he had come back, passed away. So I was kind of like, I didn't want to take anything for granted. And so that motivated me to be, I got like 100 other poems. Why am I just chilling? So I got like on my ass, and I made the second book in a year, basically, or like 5 months. And so my first book was in 2018, and then the last one came out in 2019. But it was just I learned a lot. And since I was capable of it and I knew how to do it, I felt like, what am I waiting for? Let me see if I could replicate it. And then I feel like the second book was better in every way because you just learned so much in making the first one. So yeah, out there thinking about self-publishing, like, look up, you know, Google it. There's a lot of resources. Look it up on YouTube. You can definitely make good quality work. You know, you're gonna have to be consistent and hustle at it, but it's possible, bro. And you know, I'm really proud of both of my books.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Now, as someone like myself, like, I don't know if because I'm a Virgo or is it because I'm just like, you know, so picky with my stuff, but I would think that once it's time to like get into all my archive of my poetry and pick something to make into a compilation book, that would have been hard for me. Like, I would want to, like, you know, I would be so picky. Like, how did you even, you know, like, get 30 out of 200 poems? Like, how did you do that? Like, what were you basing it on? What was your theme? Or did you have a theme? Or, I mean, how did you come out with those 30?
Yeah, bro. What I did is, once I realized, like, all right, I'm gonna, you know, I was a little kid, I liked to write. I knew I liked writing. When I was in community college, I joined the college newspaper, so I was a journalist. So I love to write. So I knew I liked to write. So I was like, I need to make a book, right? So I make the first book, and when I looked at all my 200 poems, I had to be like, damn, like, all right, so I just read a bunch of them again, and I literally just categorized them, right? So if I read like 10 in a row that were about depression, I write on each, like, depression. About anxiety. The other 10 were about love, but love, right? So I made up my own little system of notes, and so by starting to separate them, I started to, right? So if I read 5 poems from the depression category, I thought they were really strong, and they all had a similar theme, then my brain started to say, like, I see a pattern emerging here. Let me put these aside, right? And then, like I told you, I might have like 3 good ones about anxiety and another one about love. And if I looked at them all and then I said, all right, if the love caused the anxiety, then I would try to put the love poem in the middle or whatever. And so just by, by starting the work of day one of just start trying to do the book, right? And just telling myself every day I got to do something for the book. It was monotonous, but like I said, I just started separating them. So this is the pile of this kind, this is the pile of that kind. And then if I had a whole bunch of one kind, which I had a lot of poems about depression, for example, I was like, all right, so I guess my book's going to be about depression. And once I knew poems, and if I had something, for some reason, bro, whenever I would write a poem, I almost always put a title. So just to my own, I was like, it just, I don't know, I feel like it's the rap influence where, like we
Mm-hmm.
So I would write a poem and then I'd be like, I'm going to call this poem Alone in a Crowd or whatever. And so one of my poems was called Lost in Life. And so once I was in the book together and I said it's going to be about depression, I kept looking at that or whatever. And it kind of comes to your mind of like, yo, I like alliteration, right? So I'm like lost life. Like I was like lost in life's ocean. And so it kind of just fit. You know what I'm saying? That's why I think it's important what we talked about earlier about I want our peoples, our gente to know is like, just try. You feel like start doing it. Start writing the script, start working on the book, make the Instagram page, because when you start, you feel me? Like that's the only way it's going to build and it's going to grow. Starting it. And when you get your juices flowing, your creativity is going to come out. We talked earlier about trusting your instincts. You know what I'm saying? Like I told you, we have good stories to tell. So it's really about just trying to be organized and smart about it. And that really helped me. And so once I did that, when I said I'm going to make the second book, I said, all right, book 1 was all about this. And I was like, how do I want that story to continue? So for the second book, it was the same process. Porch, I had my Beats pill, last Nipsey Hussle for like 3 months in a row. And same thing. Like I printed like 100 poems, right? So you had to spend a little bit of money at the printer, but I did it old school with a red pen, and I just started putting like a smiley face if it was a happy poem, a sad face if it was depressed, a heart if it was love, and I repeated the process. And because I had already done it once, then I knew, like I said, like it's like riding a bike or whatever. It was better, and that's really how it came to be.
That's dope, man. Now going over like just recently, maybe a couple weeks back, I was going over some of my poems that I wrote about anxiety when I was really having like bad anxiety. That was like a couple years back. I was having terrible anxiety, like type of anxiety that makes you think like, you know what, maybe death is not that bad. You know what I mean? And I was like thinking back on how I was feeling. Like, does it ever make you just reading your own stuff of how you were feeling a certain day when you wrote something? Does it ever take you back to that moment, bro?
Yeah, man, for sure. It's interesting because so long everything I wrote was just kept to myself, and then it felt real cathartic when I first made my Instagram to finally be like, you know what, like screw it, I just let it all out. Like people are gonna read, because friends and family supported me and they bought the book, and I knew like, damn, they're about to go home and like
Yeah,
I didn't know. I feel like also a lot of people who suffer through depression and anxiety, we try to mask it, bro, right? Like we try to mask it like toughness or through laughter, you know what I'm saying? And so a lot of times I would try to like always be smiling at people or try to be cool with people, and I was hiding how I felt. And so by me making the book and then them buying it, I had to be like, damn, they're gonna go home and read, and they're gonna be like, damn, I didn't know this about him or whatever. And but it all just became liberating, bro. Like to be honest with you, like I said, it just doing it and going through it showed me that all the stuff that I had worried about almost always is just stuff that we're worried about, right? Like depression and anxiety specifically, I feel like they constantly try to trick us into thinking that things are worse than it really is. So
exactly.
by learning how to release it, though, almost everything I reread, I feel okay with now, because I try to remind myself that I'm using it as my art form now or whatever, right? Like meaning like I'm trying to be creative with it. But there's certain poems, right? Like I've written a poem about my grandma passing. I have some poems deal with my dad passing away, and I thought I was all cool with them, and then when I actually tried to read them to people, I got all choked up. You know what I'm saying? So it's like some things I thought I released when I wrote it, and then I thought I was over, and then months later I go to reread it, and it feels like an open wound. You know what I mean? So the bad thing, I guess, because it lets me know that I'm able to evoke emotion. But yeah, sometimes it definitely rekindles or triggers like old pain. But I try to remind myself that we grow through our pain or whatever. So definitely.
Yeah, man, shit. When you're writing, bro, when do you say to yourself like, okay, that's it. I don't want to keep adding more to this. Like, it looks cool already. Like, when do you say stop? Is it whenever you just your juice stops flowing, like your words stop coming, or how do you know when to stop?
I've been lucky so far. That I kind of just go right, like writing something. Um, I might do like 5 or 10 lines of a poem and really like I'm in a perfect mood for it, and then something will happen. Like my mood will switch, and I might get distracted. I might get hungry. I might get a text that changes my whole. And then I'll just be like, I'm gonna put this away for now, right? And so uh, it's kind of like able to revisit it and rewrite stuff has been helpful. But yeah, bro. Hey, my bad, bro. I kind of spaced out right there.
Oh, all good, man. All good. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, man. Because I mean, that happens to me, bro. When I write, I'm like, does that sound like a good ending? And should there even be an ending with poetry? I mean, that's a question. I mean, that's a good question for any writer. You know what I mean? Should there ever be an ending to any type of? Of course, the story needs an ending. You know what I mean? But like any type of thing, like a poem, like creative writing type things, like should there even be an ending, or should there be open for interpretation, open for the person to imagine an
Yeah,
ending?
in my experience with the first two books, bro, has been that minded I've been, but like is when the best stuff has happened. So like I told you, rigid
Mm,
about it of like we're gonna keep it how I first, or they're all gonna be this way or that way, and then putting it out
mm,
and experiencing it kind of showed me the benefits of flexibility or whatever. And so sometimes I like, so for example, my first book, the last poem in the first book, way when I wrote it, and then I knew that I was like, damn, if I add like 4 lines to it, creatively it'll just fit better, right? And I wanted it to end like on a like ambiguous note or whatever. And so I right, which is
mm,
I had to have that inner conflict as a writer of like, damn, I'm about to change this poem that I wrote, and like I felt this many years ago
mm,
or whatever. But it's right. But I did it thinking that it was just a nice way to end the first book. And like I told you, life would so have it that in the next 6 months, a bunch of horrible things happened that made me be more like, with a fire under me. And I started making, and
mm,
because I was open minded enough to allow myself to edit the first book's ending, it gave me the avenue to connect the second book perfectly. And so I was able to
mm,
one, and then so that only possible by me being open minded. You feel if I
mm.
book one ended ambiguous, book two has to be different or whatever. I feel like I would have closed myself out to possibilities. So yeah, I feel like especially with social media and the way everything is now, we don't really have to hold ourselves to constraints, right? Like we could try and see how it comes out. And authenticity matters. And like I said, we got good stories to tell. Um, and I feel like if we do it and we create stuff, some of it's going to be great, some of it might not be, but that's the only way to get better. So that's really
Mm.
been helpful to me creatively on ever since the books.
That's what's up, man. See, yeah, I'm loving this, bro. I'm loving this because I don't really see platforms like this where people like you and myself, bro, that we just talk about our passion. You know what I mean? Our passion, and discuss it in a manner where not only do we go what's on the surface, but what's below the surface, what's what's in our minds when we actually are creating, what's 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 driving us to make more of this, you know what I mean, of this creativity within paper, you know what I mean. um Now when we talk about like writing and having an inspiration, where do you find inspiration at, bro? Like, do you have friends that you go to talk to about, you know what I mean, how do you write your poetry? How do you write your stories? Who do you go to for that advice, or is it just YouTube? Like myself, like I don't know anyone. Like personally, I don't know anyone that writes and stuff on the level where it's like storytelling or poetry. I know rappers, but that's another type of writing. Like I'm talking about writing in this format. Who do you go
Yeah,
to
I
for that,
mean,
bro?
for the most part, I because I was so because poetry was personal to me, and because it was all about like my insecurities and vulnerabilities, I never really shared with hardly anybody, right? So I had like one or two people that I shared it, but that was kind of like I was hypersensitive to the idea of how I might be perceived if they knew that I struggled with ideas or whatever. And so once I actually started letting uh, poetry out, I've had the experience, kind of, to be honest with you, where I feel like the most satisfying moments I've had has been when I express myself creatively. So, for example, my for a long time, and I trust his creativity, but writing when I was working on my stuff of like, damn, do I want to go to people and then see what they have to say about it? I don't know. I feel like creatively it might have impacted too much of how I wanted to like
Mm,
embark on this journey as a writer, or whatever. So I've just, to be honest, with you, really been trying to trust my own instincts and feel like, by trial and error. Meaning, if I originally would only put out stuff from my first book, right? So it was like carefully crafted. Like, okay, I made my first book, and this is what I'm gonna put out. It's all from the first book. Once I started having got over that fear, I was able to realize I might make like IG stories with a like a freestyle poem, throwaway poem, a poem that's not going to go in a book, but it's something that just felt creative. I said, okay, let me buy Amazon and then let me do audio of my poems, right? So I made a couple poems that were like, I made them just to transition book one, book two, because on book one, my whole Instagram was all about book one, like color wise. And I said, damn,
mm,
I have to get my audience visually ready for a whole new theme or whatever. And so I said, let me write these poems that'll transition from book one to book two, and I'll have them be audio poems, let's say. And so by putting that out, it allowed me to do what you're saying of like, let me see what the people like. And if I put out these that were a little bit
mm.
more experimental and not grimy, and they got 500 likes, then I thought, okay, people like this. You feel me? And if I put out like an experimental poem and it got like 10 likes, I might say, maybe this is not the way to go. You know what I mean? So I kind of been doing it that way through Instagram. Kind of a great way. Like not everything has to be a feed post, right? Like it could be a story. Sometimes I put a poem out on the story and just see how people react to it. And also watching other creatives do the same thing, like other writers I enjoy and respect. I see that like they'll have their feed will have like content from the book, but their stories might have freestyle poems or poems about one topic or another, and that allows us to kind of experiment and see where we're at with it, how the people react.
That's dope, man. So the first book, bro, A War Within. Why that title?
So for A War Within, bro, because a big part of my life has been struggling with inner conflict, and so called The War Within represent that, but it also it's like a double meaning because my initials. So my name is Will, and my middle initial is an A, and my last name is Ray. I made it a war within, so it's like double play of like internal conflict, but also my personal internal conflict. So I made the book that way because I wanted anybody who has depression or anxiety or who feels like they're battling themselves to feel like this book is them or something that if they were to read it, they're gonna find things that or someone who kind of understands what they're going. So I wanted it to be like I said, just about inner conflict. But the thing about a war that I really wanted to emphasize was that when you're in a war, you're in a battle, right? So in my first book, Lost
Mm,
but by the time I'm at the second book, now I'm at least at war, meaning I about myself enough to put up a fight, to be like, nah, I'm not just going to be lost no more. Like, I'm going to find my way, even if I'm there. And so that's why I chose that theme for it.
that's dope, man. That's a dope, man. See, that's a dope way that you even like you put like hidden meanings within the title. You know what I mean? Initials like acronyms WAR.
Yeah.
That's dope, man. See that goes a long way with with being a creative and just you know giving people these little seeds here and there to pick up on and I mean that's really what the creative mind's about, bro. Just leaving it off for the people to decide, you know, what this means and what this is about. But once you start reading the inside, the pages, then you get, you know, a taste of what is